Hi, welcome to Leadership with Miss Snuffy for episode 2. So today I want to talk about centralized detentions because I had a conversation with a teacher I just met from another school where they do that. And it struck me that actually 10 years ago nobody did centralized detentions, and now there are a few schools where it's happening. And I slightly worry sometimes that maybe Michaela has partly influenced people in that. And I say worry because centralized detentions are really hard to get right. And I'm not sure it's something that an established school should go into easily. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but the thing is that the number one thing is if you don't have an office with a set of staff in there who you can really depend on, then I'd say don't do it because the centralization is going to take place through the office, and it has to be 100% reliable. You need to be on top of every single one of those pupils that's put into the central detention because if some of them don't go, then it defeats the whole purpose of detention and will literally ruin your school. So that's the risk you're taking. So I suppose this episode is sort of for senior leaders, but also for teachers actually, because you can tell your senior leaders about this and send them my video. And also it's of interest to parents, I think, because one of the key things that I say about parents recognizing that teachers are there for their children and they're not going to put their child into a detention if they don't care about them, is that actually with centralized detentions, there's an incentive for the teacher to just put the child in detention and not really think about it. And that's the danger that all senior teams need to be aware of. You don't want a culture where kids are just thrown into detention and nobody really follows it up. And if the child doesn't show up to detention, well, what happens then? First of all, do they get on a list? Secondly, do they get given, does that list go to the tutors? Is it being said over and over again so that there's no way the child can forget about that detention? When they turn up to detention, is there a system? So we have a very tight system here at Michaela. No child would ever go without sitting his detention. Now, this teacher who I met telling me about centralized detentions in his school said, well, lots of kids don't go to detention. And I was saying, but why? Why? And he said, well, first of all, teachers have to ring home when they set a detention. Now that's madness, okay? If a teacher has to ring home every time they set a detention, then few detentions will get set. And you don't want few detentions to get set as a senior leader in the school. You want teachers to be able to set detentions when they are needed. And if phone calls are required, I mean, do you have to get through to the parent? Is it okay to just leave a message? Can you send a text message? There's so much opportunity there for misunderstandings that really shouldn't happen. We use a system called the reward system. It's online and it's done by a company called Sixth Domain, and I highly recommend it. It's a behavior module. The problem with MISs, SIMs, and so on is that they have different modules. Assessment and all sorts, and they're not experts at any one thing. Whereas the reward system is an expert behavior module. Very few clicks. It was set up by a teacher originally, so very few clicks, very easy for teachers to use. I highly recommend it. And our parents are able to check reward to see whether or not their child has a detention. So no phone calls are needed. So that's a big thing that you need to do first. Second thing is our teachers have to pop in at some point to talk to the child to restore that relationship. It's really important that conversation takes place. If it doesn't take place, then well, the relationship could remain broken for a long time, and you don't want your centralized detention system undermining the relationships between teachers and children at your school. So that bit is really important. Now, more important than all of this, I suppose, is that the children should actually turn up to detention. And what this teacher was telling me was that most kids don't go. I said, why? He said, well, one, there was the phone calls. But two, if they don't turn up, they're meant to have a 30-minute detention the following day. And I said, so well, what happens then? And he said, well, they don't turn up to that one either. So whoever's in charge of your centralized detention system, whichever deputy it is, has to be on the money, right? They have to know this. This is the most important thing in the school. It's the most important thing. And if you get it wrong, then everything will fall apart, literally. So everything depends on this system working. I would say, actually, if you're an established school, there's much to be said for teachers running their own detentions. For one, the teacher is in control of that. The teacher is in charge of it. They own that. They invite children back to their classroom. When the child is sitting in the detention, it's at that point that they can have conversations about, I don't know, what video games they play, or naughty you spent too much time on Netflix this weekend, or whatever it is, right? And that relationship is allowed to build, and they are able to restore the relationship after that detention was given. So I'm in two minds. You know, we have centralized detentions here at Michaela, but we were in a very lucky position. We started from scratch. And we have a very, very tight system. And I have excellent teachers and excellent office staff who I can depend on to deliver that system. So I suppose, as I say, two minds. If you find kids aren't going to your centralized detention system, then don't be scared to go back to the original system of individualized detentions, you know? You don't want your system undermining your teachers. That's what's key. So I hope that's of use. You know, I did want to end every day with, you know, what I've learned today. And I tell you what I learned today. I bought an advent calendar from Tiger for a senior team. And it's this great big thing. I recommend it to all of you. And you can stick all these things inside each of the pockets so you can decide what's in your advent calendar. And so that's what I did this morning. And I learned that there was such a thing as your own created advent calendar. So that's my thing that I learned for today. I hope you've learned something today. And I hope that this video was of use. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time. Bye.